The story begins before there was time, before there were stars scattered across the sky, before there was even light to warm the darkness. There was only God, full of love, full of life, and full of a desire to create something beautiful, something that could share in that love. And so, with gentle intention and infinite power, God spoke. Light broke into the darkness, not harshly, but like a soft dawn spreading across a quiet horizon. The heavens stretched outward, the oceans gathered, and the earth began to take shape. Trees rose from the soil, rivers flowed, and life began to bloom in countless forms, each one carrying a quiet reflection of its creator's beauty. But among all that was created, there was something still missing. God desired not just creation, but relationship. And so, with care and closeness, God formed humanity. Not from something distant, but from the very dust of the earth, shaped with purpose, brought to life with his own breath. Humanity was made not as servants, but as beloved children, created in his image, capable of love, connection, and wonder. And in the beginning, there was peace. There was a garden, full of life and color, where humanity walked freely with God. There was no fear, no shame, no distance. Just presence. Just love. Just a quiet, steady closeness that needed no words. But love, if it is real, must be freely chosen. And so God gave humanity a choice. He placed before them a boundary, not to control them, but to give them the freedom to trust. And in that freedom, a question arose, subtle and quiet: what if there is something more? What if God is holding something back? And in a moment that would echo through all of history, humanity chose to step away from trust. It was not just an action, it was a turning. A turning away from the one who loved them. And in that turning, something broke. The closeness faded. Fear entered where peace once lived. Shame took the place of innocence. And for the first time, humanity hid, from God, and from themselves. Yet even then, God did not turn away. Even in the moment of separation, his love remained steady. He called out to them, not in anger, but in longing. Not to condemn, but to restore. And though the world had changed, though pain and struggle would now be part of the human story, God made a promise. That this would not be the end. That love would find a way back. As generations passed, humanity spread across the earth, carrying both the beauty they were created with and the brokenness they had chosen. There were moments of kindness, of courage, of connection, but also moments of darkness, where people forgot who they were and who God was. Still, God continued to reach out. He chose a man named Abraham, not because he was perfect, but because he was willing to listen. God called him into a promise, that through him, a family would grow, and through that family, all the world would one day be blessed. It was the beginning of something quiet, yet powerful. A thread of love woven through generations. Abraham trusted, even when the path was uncertain. And from him came a people, shaped not just by history, but by a promise they carried within them. These people, the descendants of Abraham, would come to know both the closeness of God and the pain of distance. They would experience blessing and hardship, faith and doubt. And at one point, they found themselves in a place of deep suffering, enslaved, oppressed, and forgotten by the world. But not by God. He heard their cries. He saw their pain. And he came to bring them out. Through Moses, God led them from slavery into freedom, not just physically, but spiritually. He showed them that they were not abandoned, that they were still chosen, still loved. And in the wilderness, as they journeyed toward a new beginning, God gave them something more than direction. He gave them a way to live. A way rooted in love. To love Him with all their heart. To love one another with compassion and justice. To remember who they were, not as slaves, but as His people. Yet even with this, the human heart struggled. There were moments when they trusted, and moments when they turned away. Moments of faith, and moments of forgetting. But through it all, God remained patient. He did not give up. He raised leaders, kings, and prophets, voices that reminded the people of His love, His faithfulness, and His promise. Some listened. Others did not. But the message remained the same. Return to me. Not because you are forced, but because you are loved. And in the midst of all their wandering, a deeper promise began to take shape. A promise not just of guidance, but of transformation. A promise that one day, the distance between God and humanity would be healed completely. That one day, love would come close again. And then, in a moment that seemed small to the world, but changed everything, that promise began to be fulfilled. A child was born. Not in a place of power, but in humility. Not surrounded by wealth, but by simplicity. And yet, this child carried within him the fullness of God's presence. His name was Jesus. He grew as any child would, yet there was something unmistakable about him. A gentleness, a wisdom, a quiet authority that drew people near. When he began to speak, people listened, not because he demanded it, but because his words carried life. He spoke of love, not as an idea, but as a way of being. He spoke of God, not as distant, but as a father who sees, who cares, who knows every heart. He reached for those others avoided. He sat with the broken, the forgotten, the hurting. He healed not just bodies, but hearts. He forgave where others judged. He brought peace where there was fear. In him, people saw what love truly looked like. Not conditional. Not distant. But present, patient, and full of grace. And yet, even as he loved, there were those who could not accept him. Because his love challenged expectations. It did not fit into the systems people had built. It did not elevate power or control. It invited surrender. And so, he was rejected. Betrayed by one of his own. Abandoned by many. And led to a cross. It was a moment that seemed like the end of everything. The one who had brought healing was now suffering. The one who had spoken life was now silent. And as he hung there, bearing the weight of human brokenness, it seemed as though darkness had won. But what looked like defeat was, in truth, the deepest expression of love the world had ever seen. Because he chose it. He chose to take upon himself the separation that humanity had created. He chose to stand in that place, so that no one else would have to. And in that moment, love did not turn away. It gave everything. Then came the silence. A stillness that felt heavy with loss. But the story was not over. Because love does not end in silence. 3 days later, something impossible happened. The stone was rolled away. The grave was empty. Jesus was alive. And in that moment, everything changed. Death no longer held its power. Separation was no longer final. Hope was no longer distant. Love had overcome. And not just for a moment, but forever. After his resurrection, Jesus appeared to those who had followed him, reminding them that the story was not ending, but beginning anew. He spoke of a love that would continue to spread, not through force, but through hearts changed by grace. And he sent them into the world. Not as perfect people, but as loved ones. To carry this message. That no one is too far gone. That no heart is beyond healing. That love is still reaching. And so the story continued. Through ordinary people doing extraordinary things, not through their own strength, but through the love that had found them. They shared, they served, they endured. And through them, the message spread across the world. A message simple, yet profound. You are loved. You are not alone. And you are invited back into relationship. The Bible does not end with an ending, but with a promise. A promise that one day, everything broken will be restored. That every tear will be wiped away. That the distance that once existed will be gone completely. And that once again, there will be a closeness, like in the beginning, but deeper, stronger, unbreakable. A place where love is not interrupted. Where peace is not temporary. Where God is fully present, and humanity is fully home. And so, the story comes full circle. From creation to restoration. From closeness, to separation, and back again. It is a story of love that never gave up. A love that pursued through every failure, every doubt, every turning away. A love that chose to come close. A love that gave everything. And even now, that love continues. Still reaching. Still calling. Still inviting. Not demanding perfection, but offering grace. Not requiring worthiness, but giving belonging. And wherever you find yourself in this moment, in joy or in struggle, in certainty or in searching, the story is not finished. Because you are part of it. And the same love that began it all is still holding it together. Still writing. Still restoring. Still loving.